Good afternoon. A month ago, a crazy woman told me to peel an onion. So let me take a few steps back, right? Her name is Clelia. I call her Clels. She's my advisor. She's a mentor. I sent her a message on Facebook. Clels, Bill asked me to do a TED Talk. Theme is, diversion, deviation. So what did she say in response? She messaged back. She's like, deviate yourself if you want to play with disruption. Otherwise, you'll just be another fool. And peel a damn onion, right? That was basically it. So for this TED Talk, for the next 10 minutes I'm here with you, I'm going to peel an onion, right? I'm going to talk a little bit about what it means to deviate and what it means to disrupt as a social justice, as a human rights activist. What does it mean, really, to work in human rights, right? I hope to start answering that question. That's a lot of questions, right? I was preparing this talk, I was going through it, and, well, it would have been like 3 hours long. I don't think we're going to do that. So in the next 8 minutes or so, right, I'm going to start addressing what I think is one basic core message we all need to know to be better humans, one, but also be better activists, right? I learned what activism was during my first day in high school. I didn't really know what it was before then. I was at this new school in New York City. It's a public high school in New York. I was the only person from my junior high school, right? It was an exhausting day. For the first time in my academic life, I was challenged. I didn't think I was the smartest person in the classroom, right? I was exhausted. I was in the cafeteria. There was green and gray tiles. It'll forever be in my mind. Green and gray tiles, rows of table. It was so loud I couldn't hear myself think. I'm just standing in a line, waiting to get my lunch. Find a table, a seat where people won't look at me strangely, and then take me over. I can go home. And these two girls come up to me in the lunch line, fingers in my face. You're going to support your people. My people. Well, story goes, I sat down and had lunch with them, and that weekend they kidnapped me, right? They took me outside of the UN to a rally. We protested, we screamed, we called for justice, and a flame was ignited. Right? I was 14. At age 15, I started work with Amnesty International, International Human Rights Organization, and I've been on board with them since then. Right? From that point to today, human rights for me, from that point through, human rights were to me about the 30 articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It's about the laws, right? It's about the policies. It was the right to education, the rights to housing, the right to life, liberty, and security, right? I could go on and on and on. Human rights were about justice, a justice based on laws and policy. Have you ever peeled an onion? Right? You've probably chopped an onion up to cook it. Have you ever, peeled an onion? I mean with your fingers. So many layers, it's messy, right? Chloe asked me to peel an onion months ago. And I bought an onion, I bought another onion, both of them got rotten, I bought another onion. I dreaded peeling the onion because I remember when I chop onions, my eyes burn, it hurts, I just want to get through and get over with it. Why does this crazy woman want me to peel an onion, right? I get the metaphor, symbolic, there are many layers of social change and human rights. It's painful, right? I bought another onion. Peeling an onion for me at this point was inconvenient. And for that, I didn't really want to do it. I lost my clicker somewhere along the line. There we go. All right? It was inconvenient. But I learned to work in human rights, right, to be a social activist, you have to peel an onion. Because you start to peel each layer, you start seeing how complex the onion actually is. You begin to realize that the fear, the burning eyes, it's a sensation that's worse in your mind than it really is in reality, How do you really start peeling an onion? I don't have a knife, I can't really dig into it. It's I can't get into it, right? I'll rip it. I'll keep ripping and nothing happens, right? You can get into an onion, but eventually you break skin, and it breaks free a little bit. And you keep going, and you keep going. Again, I'm here now, like, I'm starting to feel like, it burning my eyes a little bit, right? My hand's getting sticky, I can smell it, I'm gonna be smelling like onion for the next day. I wanna put this down and walk away, okay? I feel sorry for my friends who will have to hang out with me after this. There's that dread, right? But I have to keep peeling the onion. I wanna as you start doing it, you start really becoming curious to see what's next. My fingers now are really, really sticky, kind of at one with the onion, right? It's actually a really cool texture if you've never done it, right? And so you keep going, it gets more intense and more intense, right? As you work towards the center of the onion, you come to realize that, wow, you can't really destroy the entire thing. There's a bulb in the middle, there's a sprout, right? There's an end to it. There's a speaker here earlier, I believe, from Nepal, right? So I'm going to share a story of when I was in Nepal. It was a cold morning, right? I was on the riverbank of the Bagmati River. It rained the night before. The smell of the polluted river just like smacks your face. I'm trying not to get my feet too muddy. And I'm walking along, and I want to be there a little bit, but I kind of don't want to be there. It's like the onion. Like I'm dreading being there right now, but it's also I want to see what's next. And then I see Sita, right? Sita is this like dynamic, kick-ass social justice organizer, right? Sita lived on that riverbank. Sita's community lives a mile up from that riverbank, from the point where I was standing. A few months before, at 5 in the morning, government forces, unexpected, unannounced, came through her village with bulldozers. Families, screaming, running, grabbing what they could, fled for safety. Her new community is now made of tents, old tarps, right? As I walked up, I saw Sita. The storms the night before, the wind of that afternoon. She was rebuilding a little schoolhouse that her community built together, right? For Sita, Sita's life is that onion. It's this onion here, right? The more and more you start working with it, the more and more you start peeling the layers back of it, the closer you get towards the center, towards the end, the more driven you are by it, right? You're mesmerized almost by what's to come next. And you want to find the end. You want to find the sprout, right? What is it? What is a sprout? It's a new beginning, right? Sita is working for a new beginning for her community. Same thing with Olga. I live in Zualatemba. Zualatemba is a township outside of Worcester in the Western Cape of South Africa. Mama Olga, I lived with Mama Olga for a while. Mama Olga is an incredible woman. She's the reason in the Western Cape, I honestly believe, that reconciliation worked. In 1996, on Christmas Eve, she was shopping in ShopRite, and the ShopRite was, blown up to pieces by a white South African radical, a terrorist, right? She was targeted, that ShopRite was targeted because, it's predominantly a black community, right? Olga was harmed. She is physically disabled, and she's never had this same life since then. Life from that day, life before that day in apartheid South Africa, and continues towards this day in the township that she continues to live in, life for Olga and her community is peeling an onion. She's more mesmerized by what's coming next, and the moment she's in, driven to find the end, the sprout, a new beginning, right? Then we jump to Anita. Anita is a good friend of mine. I hung out and I lived in her community in Curarrehue in southern Chile, right? Uh, you know, Anita's community is really dynamic. It's the Mapuche community, Mapuche. It's an indigenous community, one of the most resilient communities in South America, I think, in the world, right? Mapu, the land, the territory, the earth, the water. Che people, they're people of the land. They're proud owners, protectors of the Mapu. The Chilean government has contracted with many foreign investment organizations. They're drilling the land, they're taking away the land from the community. They're taking away security and identity from the Mapuche. And Nita and her community are actively fighting back to secure their right to their Mapu, right, to the land. The Chilean government is illegally using counterterrorism laws to arrest activists like Anita and her community members for nonviolent direct action, right? But still, Anita's fighting back. Anita's community is fighting back. Each day in Anita's life, each day is peeling back those layers of the onion, and they are looking for a new start, right? They're looking for that sprout. My takeaway from all this, really, is that human rights really aren't about the UDHR. They really aren't about policies and laws. It's a little bigger than that. To understand human rights, you need to deviate from logistics. For me to understand human rights, I needed to deviate from logistics, right? And I needed to look at the people peeling the onion, right? The people who, as a human rights activist, I was standing up and standing with in solidarity, right? From Nepal to South Africa to Chile to the streets of Ferguson, Missouri, to Staten Island, New York, life, activism is about peeling the onion. Activism is digging for a new beginning, the sprout. Before I jump off, I'll show you a little story. I grew up in a small rural town in Guyana, South America. Right? It's the only English-speaking country on the continent, fun fact. In the afternoons, my dad used to pick me up from school. I would sit on a bike and we'd go home, right? So he picks me up one afternoon for lunchtime. I'm on the bike handle. We're riding along. It's humid, it's hot, green trees all around, Caribbean climate, right? The cane cutters, I lived in a predominantly sugarcane industry community, right? So cane cutters are also, the manual laborers are also going home for lunch at the same time. So riding along, I'm starting to get hungry. I'm more excited, every day at lunchtime, I would watch Winnie the Pooh, right? Winnie would be on, I'll be eating, I'll be happy, right? So we go home, we're sitting in the living room, I'm watching Winnie the Pooh, I have a bowl of rice, right, and stew in front of me, and the steam's coming up, it's hitting my face, right? I'm so hungry, I'm starting to enjoy it. And I started hearing yelling, and I started hearing screaming, right? Cussing and fighting. I got angry. I was furious. I wanted to do something right there and then, right? 5-year-old me was about to get up, put my bowl of stew down, and go outside and yell at the guy next door, right? He was yelling at his wife. He was hitting his wife. Well, because the rice wasn't cooked soft enough in this particular day, right? I was furious. I saw my dad was furious. We both wanted to do something. So I picked up the remote control, and I turned up Winnie. I kept watching. We've all been in that place, right? We've all been in that place where we wanted to do something. We saw an injustice. We saw that something wasn't right, right? We wanted to dig for a sprout, a new beginning, but we didn't act. We couldn't act, maybe. We didn't know how to act, maybe, right? I think it's never too late to act. I think it's never too early to act, right? You can be a student, you can be an academic, you can be a politician. It doesn't matter where in life you are. We need to stand up for other people, human rights, human dignity, which I think goes back to human rights, right? We need to actively dig for the sprout. We need to peel an onion. Thank you.